Get out now. This bank is not for people like you. I will never serve you here, so leave the premises immediately, or the security will throw you out. Victoria Washington stood in the bank manager's office, watching Rebecca Hayes grab her phone to call security. She didn't move. She didn't argue. She just stood there with this calm look on her face that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. But here's what nobody knew. In exactly 10 minutes, Victoria would own this entire bank. And every single person who was about to escort her out would be begging to keep their jobs. Before we dive into the story, if you stand against prejudice and support justice, hit the subscribe button, type justice, and tell us where you're watching from. Victoria Washington, a 45-year-old woman who runs Washington Financial, walked into that bank. She wasn't wearing designer clothes or flashy jewelry. She had on a simple black blazer and her grandmother's pearl earrings. See, Victoria learned a long time ago that real power doesn't need to show off. This woman grew up right here in this neighborhood, just 3 blocks from this very bank. Her mom, Dorothy, worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and taking care of an elderly woman during the day. Victoria remembers falling asleep to the sound of her mom's alarm clock, knowing she was heading out in the cold to scrub floors for people who didn't even know her name. But her mom had big dreams. Every morning while braiding Victoria's hair, she'd say, "Baby girl, someday you're going to own buildings like that. Not clean them, own them." 20 years ago, Victoria walked into this exact same bank asking for a business loan. She had great credit, a solid plan, everything perfect. But they turned her down. The loan officer told her the venture was too ambitious for someone in her situation. Can you believe that? That rejection lit a fire under Victoria that never went out. She found money somewhere else and built Washington Financial Group from nothing. Today, her company manages over $200 million. So why was Victoria at this bank on Tuesday morning? She needed to move money for a huge real estate deal, $750,000, to buy commercial property downtown. Here's the crazy part. Her company had been banking here for years. Their accounts were actually helping keep this branch profitable, but she had never gone to the bank herself. She was always represented by her accountant, but today she decided to go there herself. Victoria walked up to the teller window that morning, confident but respectful. The teller was Jennifer Miller, 28 years old, and had been working there for 3 years. When Victoria explained she needed to transfer almost $1 million, Jennifer looked her up and down like she was crazy. "What kind of transaction?" Jennifer asked, not even trying to hide her attitude. Victoria stayed professional. She explained about the real estate purchase. Jennifer's face changed completely. She started demanding multiple IDs, proof of employment, documentation showing where the money came from. Victoria knew exactly what was happening. She'd seen this before, but never this obvious. She pulled out her driver's license, business card, account information, everything Jennifer asked for. Jennifer barely looked at the papers before shaking her head. "This seems really suspicious. I need to get my manager." And that's when Rebecca Hayes walked over and everything went completely off the rails. Rebecca Hayes strutted over to Jennifer's window like she owned the place. At 52 years old, she'd been working at this bank for 15 years and prided herself on what she called protecting the bank's interests. But what she really meant was making life difficult for anyone who didn't fit her narrow idea of what a wealthy customer should look like. Jennifer was still holding Victoria's documents, and you could see the stress all over her face. "What seems to be the problem here, Jennifer?" Rebecca asked, loud enough for half the bank to hear. "This woman says she wants to transfer $750,000, but I think we need to verify everything first," Jennifer said, practically whispering. Rebecca's eyes went wide, then narrow. She looked Victoria up and down like she was sizing up a threat. "Ma'am, I'm Rebecca Hayes, the branch manager. I understand you're trying to make a rather large transaction?" Victoria nodded calmly. "That's correct. I have all my account information right here." But Rebecca wasn't interested in looking at any paperwork. "Before we can process anything like this, I'm going to need you to prove your identity." "I already provided my driver's license and business card," Victoria said, her voice still steady. "That's not enough," Rebecca shot back. "For a transaction this size, we need multiple forms of ID, proof of employment, bank statements from the last 6 months, and documentation showing the legitimate source of these funds." Victoria provided all the documents requested, but Rebecca still wasn't satisfied. "Now here's the thing that'll make your blood boil." While this whole conversation was happening, other customers were walking up to the other teller windows. A white man in a golf shirt deposited a check for $15,000, no questions asked. An elderly white woman withdrew $800,000 in cash. Jennifer's coworker handed it over with a smile and asked about her grandchildren. But Victoria was being treated like a criminal trying to rob the place. "Ma'am, I'm starting to question whether you actually have an account here at all," Rebecca said, crossing her arms. "What you're claiming doesn't add up." Victoria took a deep breath. You could see her counting to 10 in her head. "I've been banking here for over 3 years. My company, Washington Financial Group, maintains multiple accounts at this branch. You can verify this in your system." "Washington Financial Group?" Rebecca laughed. "I've never heard of any company by that name banking here." Meanwhile, Sarah Chen, the assistant manager, was watching this whole thing unfold from her desk about 10 feet away. Sarah knew something was wrong. She could feel it in her gut. She'd seen Victoria's name on account reports and knew Washington Financial Group was one of their biggest business clients. But Sarah just sat there, pretending to be busy with paperwork, hoping someone else would step in. Rebecca was getting more aggressive now. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside so we can serve our other customers. I don't care who you are, but I don't serve people like you until your documents are approved." Victoria's jaw tightened just slightly, the first crack in her composure. "Are you suggesting that I obtained this money illegally?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Rebecca said with fake politeness. "I'm just doing my job and protecting this bank's interests." Other customers were starting to stare now. Some looked uncomfortable, others seemed entertained by the drama. Victoria could feel every eye in that bank on her, and she knew exactly what they were thinking. But here's what made Victoria different from most people. Instead of getting angry, instead of raising her voice or storming out, she got strategic. 20 years of building a business had taught her that the best revenge is massive success. And sometimes you have to let people hang themselves with their own rope. If you were in Victoria's shoes, what would you have done? Tell us in the comments and hit the subscribe button for more stories like this. "I understand your position," Victoria said quietly, "but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we should discuss this in your office?" Sarah Chen looked up from her desk, hoping maybe Rebecca would calm down behind closed doors. But Rebecca was on a power trip now, and she wasn't backing down. "Fine," Rebecca said. "But I'm warning you, if you can't provide adequate documentation, I'll have no choice but to ask you to leave the premises." Rebecca knew well that she would never approve the transaction, and only agreed to look as a good manager in front of the other customers. As they walked toward Rebecca's office, Victoria pulled out her phone and sent a quick text message. To everyone watching her, it probably looked like she was texting a friend or family member. But that message was about to change everything. Sarah Chen watched them disappear into the office. And for the first time in 3 years of working at this bank, she felt truly ashamed of the place she worked. Inside Rebecca's office, Victoria sat down in the chair across from the desk, like she owned the place. Rebecca was shuffling through papers, trying to look important while she figured out her next move. That's when Victoria calmly pulled out her phone. "Michael, it's Victoria," she said quietly. "We need to accelerate the timeline." Rebecca looked up, annoyed. "Hey, I'm gonna need you to end that call. We're in the middle of a serious discussion here." But Victoria wasn't talking to her friend or her lawyer like Rebecca assumed. She was talking to Michael Torres, her chief financial officer, the man who had been working with her for the past 6 months on something Rebecca couldn't even imagine. See, here's what nobody in that bank knew. Victoria's company, Washington Financial Group, wasn't just successful. They were in the business of acquiring smaller regional banks. They had already purchased 2 community banks in neighboring states, and their acquisition strategy was aggressive and well-funded. First National Bank had been on their target list for 8 months. Victoria's team had been quietly studying their financials, their market position, their growth potential. The bank was profitable, but struggling with leadership issues and customer retention problems. It was exactly the kind of institution that Washington Financial Group specialized in turning around. The plan had been to approach the board of directors next month with a formal acquisition offer. They had financing lined up, legal documents prepared, and a transition strategy ready to go. Victoria had planned to make this a friendly takeover, something that would benefit everyone involved. But the treatment she was receiving today? That just moved up the timeline by 4 weeks. Listen, I don't know who you think you're calling, but I need you to focus on the situation at hand, Rebecca said, her voice getting louder. You're claiming to have hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you can't prove where it came from. Victoria ended her call and looked at Rebecca with that same unnaturally calm expression. I have given you all the documents to prove my ID, but you still think they're not real, so how else do I prove my authenticity? I've called my business partner. He'll be here in about 10 minutes with all other documentation. Something about the way Victoria said, business partner, made Rebecca's stomach turn. There was a confidence there that didn't match the situation. Most people being accused of financial fraud would be angry, defensive, emotional. Victoria looked like she was waiting for a board meeting to start. Well, until your so-called business partner arrives, you're not going anywhere, Rebecca said. She picked up her desk phone and dialed security. Marcus, I need you to come to my office immediately. We have a situation that might require police involvement. Victoria didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She just sat there with her hands folded, looking completely relaxed. That reaction made Rebecca even more nervous. Ma'am, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is a legitimate financial institution. We don't tolerate fraud or any kind of illegal activity, Rebecca said, her voice cracking slightly. I completely agree, Victoria replied smoothly. Banks should definitely maintain the highest standards of integrity and customer service, but you're treating me this way because I'm black, and it's unacceptable. The way she said it sent chills down Rebecca's spine. It sounded like a threat, but also like a promise. Outside the office, Jennifer was watching through the glass door, her anxiety climbing by the minute. Other customers were pretending not to stare, but the tension was obvious to everyone. Sarah Chen had given up any pretense of working and was openly watching the office, knowing this situation was spiraling out of control. Marcus, the security guard, knocked on the door and entered. You called for me, Miss Hayes? Marcus asked, looking back and forth between Rebecca and Victoria. Yes, I need you to kick this woman out from the premises now. She's a fraud, Rebecca said. Marcus looked at Victoria, who smiled at him politely. Good afternoon, Marcus. I'm just waiting for my business partner to arrive with some paperwork. Should be here any minute now. The fact that she knew his name when he wasn't wearing a name tag made Marcus pause. Most customers never bothered to learn the security guard's name. That's when they heard car doors slamming in the parking lot. Victoria checked her watch. Right on time, she said. Through the office window, they could see a black Mercedes pulling up to the front entrance. A man in an expensive suit got out of the driver's side. That was Michael Torres. But the person who got out of the passenger side made Rebecca's blood run cold. David Patterson, 73 years old, silver-haired, and one of the founding board members of First National Bank. Oh no, Rebecca whispered, the color draining from her face. Victoria smiled for the first time since walking into the bank. "I believe my business partner has arrived." The lobby went completely silent as David Patterson walked through the front doors. Every employee in the bank knew who he was. He'd been on the board for over 30 years, had helped grow the bank from a small community institution to its current size. When David Patterson showed up unannounced, it usually meant someone was in serious trouble. But the really strange thing was how he walked straight to Rebecca's office, like he knew exactly where to go and exactly why he was there. Michael Torres followed behind him, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it contained enough paperwork to buy and sell the entire building. Sarah Chen stood up from her desk, her heart pounding. Jennifer had gone completely pale. The other customers were starting to realize they were witnessing something way bigger than a simple banking dispute. David Patterson knocked on the office door and entered without waiting for permission. "Rebecca," he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came from decades in banking. "I believe you've been speaking with Victoria Washington." The way he said Victoria's name, with respect, with recognition, with a hint of apology, made it crystal clear that Rebecca had made a massive mistake. "Mr. Patterson, this woman was trying to..." Rebecca stammered, realizing her career was probably over. David turned to Victoria and extended his hand. "Miss Washington, I'm David Patterson from the Board of Directors. I believe we have some business to discuss." Victoria stood up and shook his hand. "Mr. Patterson, thank you for coming on such short notice. I think it's time we moved forward with our conversation." Rebecca looked back and forth between them, her mind racing to understand what was happening. The customer she had just accused of fraud was on a first-name basis with the most powerful person at the bank. Michael Torres opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "Miss Washington, everything is ready for your signature." That's when Victoria turned to Rebecca with that same calm smile. "I think there's something you should know," Victoria said. "As of about 5 minutes ago, I became the majority owner of this bank." "I think there's something you should know," Victoria said, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "As of about 5 minutes ago, I became the majority owner of this bank." Rebecca's mouth fell open. She looked like someone had just told her the sky was falling. David Patterson stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years in banking. "Rebecca, staff, I'd like you to meet Victoria Washington, CEO and founder of Washington Financial Group. As of today, Washington Financial Group has completed the acquisition of First National Bank. Miss Washington is now your owner." The words hit the office like a bomb going off. Michael Torres pulled out a thick stack of legal documents, each page stamped and signed, making it official. The acquisition that Victoria's team had been planning for months was now complete, accelerated by the treatment she'd received in the last hour. Rebecca's face went from confusion to horror to pure panic in about 3 seconds. I didn't know. I was just following protocol." "Following protocol?" Victoria's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath it now. "Is it protocol to demand multiple forms of identification from business clients? Is it protocol to question the legitimacy of funds without even checking account records? Is it protocol to threaten to call the police on customers who are trying to conduct legitimate business?" Rebecca tried to speak, but no words came out. She was watching her 15-year career crumble in real time. "Mr. Patterson," Victoria continued, "I think we need to have a staff meeting. Could you please ask everyone to gather in the lobby?" Within minutes, every employee in the bank was standing in the main area, looking confused and terrified. Jennifer Miller was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Sarah Chen kept looking at the floor, knowing she'd had a chance to do the right thing and failed. Victoria stood in the center of the lobby, still wearing that same calm expression, but now everyone understood what it really meant. This wasn't the composure of someone being victimized. This was the confidence of someone who held all the power. "I want to address what happened here today," Victoria began, her voice carrying to every corner of the bank. Because it's not just about me. It's about every customer who walks through these doors and deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. She turned to look directly at Rebecca. Rebecca Hayes, you made assumptions about me based on my appearance. You questioned my legitimacy, demanded excessive documentation, and implied that my money was obtained illegally. These actions violate every principle of professional banking ethics. Rebecca tried one last desperate attempt to save herself. Miss Washington, I'm so sorry. I was just being cautious. If I had known who you were— Stop right there, Victoria said, holding up her hand. If you had known who I was? That's exactly the problem. Every customer should be treated with the same level of professionalism, regardless of how much money you think they have or what they look like. The truth hit Rebecca like a slap in the face. She wasn't sorry for her behavior. She was sorry she got caught treating the wrong person badly. Your employment with this bank is terminated, effective immediately, Victoria continued. You'll receive your final paycheck and benefits information by mail. Rebecca's knees almost gave out. 15 years, gone in an instant. Victoria turned to Jennifer, whose face was streaked with tears. Jennifer Miller, you initiated this entire situation by making assumptions and refusing to process a legitimate transaction. Jennifer was sobbing now, knowing her job was over too. I'm so sorry, Miss Washington. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. You were wrong, Victoria agreed. But you're also young, and you made a mistake under pressure from your manager. I'm going to give you a choice. You can leave today with a recommendation letter, or you can stay and undergo comprehensive customer service retraining, starting with a 2-week unpaid suspension to think about what happened here. Jennifer's head snapped up, hope flooding her face. I'll take the training, please. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. The training will include modules on unconscious bias, cultural sensitivity, and professional customer service. If you complete it successfully and demonstrate real change, you can keep your job. If not, you're gone. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Then Victoria looked at Sarah Chen, who was still staring at the floor. Sarah, look at me. Sarah raised her eyes, and Victoria could see genuine shame there. You knew what was happening was wrong, Victoria said. You recognized my company name, you saw the discrimination happening right in front of you, and you chose to stay silent. Sarah nodded, tears starting to fall. I know. I have no excuse. I was a coward. You were, Victoria agreed. But you're also the only person in this building who seems to genuinely understand the gravity of what happened today. That tells me you have a conscience, and that's something I can work with. Sarah looked up, confused. I'm promoting you to branch manager, effective immediately. Victoria said, your first responsibility will be implementing new policies to ensure this never happens again. Your second responsibility will be personally overseeing Jennifer's retraining. Can you handle that? Sarah's mouth fell open. Yes. Yes, ma'am, I won't let you down. See that you don't. Victoria turned to address the rest of the staff, who were watching in stunned silence. I want everyone to understand something. This bank serves a diverse community, and every single person who walks through those doors deserves our respect. I don't care if they're depositing $10 or $10 million. They're our customers, and we will treat them accordingly. She paused, letting that sink in. Starting next week, every employee will undergo mandatory diversity and inclusion training. We'll be implementing new customer service protocols, new oversight procedures, and a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind. Marcus, the security guard, was nodding approvingly. He'd seen too much of this kind of treatment over the years. I want to share something with all of you, Victoria continued. 20 years ago, I walked into this exact bank asking for a small business loan. I had good credit, a solid business plan, and big dreams. I was turned down, not because my numbers didn't add up, but because someone decided I wasn't the right kind of person to invest in. The lobby was dead silent now. That rejection hurt, but it also motivated me. I built my company from nothing, and today it's worth over $200 million. I came here this morning to conduct a simple business transaction, and instead I was treated like a criminal. But you know what? I'm grateful it happened." People exchanged confused glances. "I'm grateful because it showed me exactly what needed to change about this institution. Under my ownership, this bank will be a place where everyone feels welcome, where everyone gets fair treatment, where everyone has the opportunity to build their dreams." She looked around the room one more time. "Those of you who can embrace this vision will thrive here. Those who can't should start looking for other opportunities." 2 hours later, Victoria was sitting behind the desk in what used to be Rebecca's office. The nameplate already read, "Victoria Washington, President and CEO." Through the window, she could see workers installing a new sign out front. First National Bank, a Washington financial group company. Her assistant had already fielded calls from 3 news outlets who'd heard about the acquisition. Social media was buzzing with stories from customers who'd witnessed the confrontation. The hashtag #BankingWhileBlack was trending, with people sharing their own stories of discrimination in financial institutions. Victoria thought about her mother, Dorothy, who had cleaned offices in buildings like this one. She thought about all the times she'd been underestimated, all the doors that had been closed in her face, all the people who'd counted her out. But mostly, she thought about the future. This bank would be different. It would be a place where a young Black entrepreneur could walk in with a dream and get the same consideration as anyone else. It would be a place where customers were judged by their character and their creditworthiness, not by the color of their skin or the price of their clothes. Victoria smiled as she saw that her new employees already getting back to work under Sarah's nervous but determined leadership. Jennifer was at her desk, reading the customer service manual like her life depended on it, which it probably did. Change was never easy, but it was always possible. And sometimes, justice came in the most unexpected ways. The bank that had once rejected her was now hers. The full circle was complete, but the real work was just beginning. If you enjoyed this story, hit the subscribe button and share to others so they can learn too. See you in our next video.